Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about how to set standards. In previous sessions, if you remember, we discussed about the importance of standards while developing a budget. In this today's session, we are discussing how to set a proper standard, how you can calculate the various standard parameters like the standard price, standard quantity, standard direct labor hour, standard direct labor rate, etc. We will directly move into topic. First one, direct material quality. Suppose your direct material quality will have a direct impact in your standard setting process. You decided to purchase a more quality material. Definitely, you will have a big impact in your scrap rate, processing time, your required floor supervision. So based on the direct material quality, you can consider a direct material quality as a parameter for standard fixing. Then the direct material quantity and price. Suppose direct material quantity, how much material you decided to purchase, based on that your standard price will change. You purchased 100 kg of a certain material at the rate of $11, suppose. At the same material you purchased another 1000 kg, maybe your price will drop to 11 or 10 based on the material. So, how you are deciding to procure your material, based on that your standard material price will change. Suppose if you decided to procure your material 1000 kg at a once, you can consider your standard price at 11. But you don't have, suppose if you, and at the same time you don't have much storage capacity and you decided to go with a purchase of 100 kg, then you have to consider your standard price as 12. Then the direct labor quantity standards. Based on the job complexity, your direct labor quantity will change. Suppose if you want to produce a simple product, you may require only a small amount of or small hours of labor hours, suppose 10 hours. At the same time, if you want to produce more complex product, which may require additional manpower or more direct labor hours. Then the direct labor wage rate parameters. Suppose you are providing employees health benefit, pension plan, paid vacation and payroll taxes. If you are paying all these HR or payroll related expenses, this will directly have an impact to your direct wage rate. If you are paying all these expenses from the company, you have to consider all these expenses like your healthcare benefit, pension plan, paid vacation and other taxes also into your equation while you are considering direct wage rate. Then your manufacturing overhead. How to calculate the manufacturing overhead rate? First thing, there are two types of overhead. The first one is variable manufacturing overhead and fixed manufacturing overhead. It's very simple. Variable manufacturing overhead mean these are the overhead which will directly have an impact with your activity level. Suppose if you produce more quantity, your variable manufacturing overhead will also higher. At the same time, the fixed manufacturing overhead like the rent, equipment depreciation, which remain fixed regardless of your activity levels. Suppose the variable manufacturing overhead normally will measure per unit. Suppose $10 per unit can be your variable manufacturing overhead, but the fixed manufacturing overhead, which will normally consider as a whole, as a total. Your total depreciation will be 50,000 or your total rent will be 30,000. Fixed manufacturing overhead will calculate based on the total amount, while the variable manufacturing overhead normally mentioned in the per unit. Now we are moving into standard rate calculation, the way overhead standard rate calculation. How to calculate your standard overhead? Suppose standard overhead rate. Just assume you have a 100,000 as your 100,000 as your total manufacturing overhead, and your activity level. Suppose you decided to produce 10,000 unit for this particular period, then each unit you can allocate $10 as your standard overhead. To calculate the standard overhead allocation rate, you have to divide budgeted total factory overhead cost with predetermined activity base volume. This activity base volume can be the exact production quantity or the standard hours, can be based on the activity, predetermined activity base. Then how to calculate the activity base? The activity base calculation can be tricky in some cases, especially if you have a bigger capacity in your machinery and you are planning to produce very limited capacity compared to your, if you are planning to produce a limited capacity compared to your total capacity. Here you have to consider some capacity factors like the denominator concept. There are some denominator concept are there. First one, theoretical capacity. Theoretical capacity is the absolute maximum output under 100% efficiency, which assumes zero downtime, zero failure and unceasing operations. This is actually unachievable in the long run. Then the practical capacity. Practical capacity means the maximum physical output capacity, reducing the total ideal capacity by normal allowance for routine maintenance, lane setup task and worker break. So this is the maximum physical output the company can produce for a certain period of time. Then the master budget capacity. The master budget capacity is the capacity which is outlined in the master budget while considering the expected demand level. This capacity mainly based on the expected demand level or the forecast from the customer demand. Then the normal capacity. Normal capacity is a long-term average activity level engineered to satisfy customer demand cycle over multiple years. So normal capacity is the average of master budget capacity for multiple years. Normally, master budget capacity is the denominator while you are calculating your predetermined overhead rate, because it aligns with the period under review, keeping variance metrics clean. Suppose if you set the master budget capacity which is completely aligning with your expected production volume or expected customer demand for a particular period. So normally master budget capacity is the denominator figure while you are calculating your predetermined overhead rate. Let's move into multiple choice question practice. Metro Baking Company budget its annual structural kitchen depreciation at $100,000. If the plant can theoretically bake 20,000 cakes but expect to bake 10,000 units based on next month demand forecast. What is the standard fixed overhead rate using master budget capacity and why this level chosen? Here you have two capacity given. This is theoretical capacity and this is your practical capacity. To calculate the predetermined rate, you have to divide your total fixed expenses divided by with your practical capacity. It will be $10. Here you can see the option B and D are $10 which is mentioned. Let's read these two options. Option B, $10 per unit, chosen because it reflects the master budget activity base level for the period to simplify variance reporting. Option D, chosen because using multi-year long-term normal cycle keeps the master inventory value fixed. We can understand that option B is the right answer here, because if you are choosing a denominator in calculating fixed overhead or your overhead rate, it should be master budget activity base. So option B is the right answer here. This is about today's discussion. What we discussed today is to how to set a standard rate. If you have any doubt or you need any clarification on any of these topics, please ask me on the comment section. Thank you for watching this video.